What's up, Jets Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicy Jet Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rooney, and we are here to recap day one of the legal tampering period where, holy cow, it was a day. We had a trade, we had multiple signings, we had reunions, we had to say goodbye to some of our old friends. It was just a wild, wild day in the NFL. I think from like 10 a.m. to I'm recording this at about 10 p.m. I waited as long as humanly possible to record just to make sure we didn't miss any signings that happened tonight. And there still could be more that happened tonight. But man, it was an exciting day. I think it was a good day to be a Jets fan. And we're going to talk all about it because there's a lot that went down. So I think overall, when you look at free agency is in my mind, we've always been, the kings of the offseason. We're the team who always has the most money and we're ready to dish it out and throw it to everyone because we're terrible at drafting. We never keep our own players. And we're always the team that's needs to fill all of our holes with all these free agents. And it feels like it's just never really worked for us. Sure, we've had some good free agent signings. You look at players in the past like a Curtis Martin, a Kevin Mawai. You look at Jim Leonard. You look at Bart Scott. There's just so many that have worked. Calvin Pace, so many that have worked out. But it's never really all worked out together, especially in the last 15 years during this playoff drought. And coming into today, there were a lot of rumors going around that the Jets weren't going to be the big spenders in terms of going after the big name free agents like a Mike Evans, for example, or an Alec Pierce, but they were going to be a volume-based team. So a lot of signings, but not for a lot of money. It's going to be more bargain shopping kind of a thing. And in the first day of free agency, I think you saw that. I think you saw the Jets spend their money wisely, go after real-life NFL football players that should be on a football field and not just these scrub guys you've never heard of that have never played football before. So I'm really excited because I think there's a lot that have changed over the past couple hours that's going to make the Jets a better team. Does that mean they're going to the Super Bowl? No. We still don't even know who our quarterback's going to be, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I think these were all positive steps forward for Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji in year two of their regime. So let's go chronologically here, what happened today, because there were just a lot of moves. So I think first of all, you start off at 10 a.m. You're like kind of getting ready for free agency to start. And then what happens? We get the Adam Schefter, the Ian Rappaport bomb that Darren Muji, trader Muji, has done it again. He makes another trade, and this time for safety Minkah Fitzpatrick from our arch rival Miami Dolphins for only a 7th-round pick. Now, Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's 29 years old. He's a veteran safety, and he's been a really good one in this league. He's been around a long time. He played for the Dolphins, played for the Steelers, went back to the Dolphins, and now he's on the Jets. And for him, he's 29, so, you're not really, paying him this crazy amount of money where it's going to be a 5-year deal. No, it's a 3-year deal, $40 million that we gave him, which is, top 10, I think it is. I think it's like 9th, 10th, or 11th. I can't remember what it was in terms of top safeties in the NFL and how much they get paid. For someone like him, I think that's good money. I think we did a good job. It's good value for the Jets, where he's going to be a guy that can now lock down our secondary, where it's not just a bunch of young guys who have never played before. So people know what they're doing, where they should be, and he can kind of be that ball hawk on the back end to finally get us some turnovers. And he didn't have a lot of interceptions last year. I think that's going to be the one thing. There's probably two things that people who don't like this trade are going to say. It's going to be one, he only had one interception last year. And then two, he is 29. So he's getting older. Now for me, I'm going to take a stab, a 7th-round pick for a 29-year-old who we know is a top 10 safety in the NFL. I'm going to take that shot every single time. So the age is fine. It's only a 3-year deal. It's to 32. I think he'll be fine there. I think from the interception perspective, I think it was Rich Cimini. I think it was Rich Cimini said that last year he actually played much closer to the line of scrimmage than he has in the past, which caused him to get less interceptions. And when I look at the safety room that we have today, we'll talk about one of the new guys that we signed in a little bit. But you look at Malachi Moore can kind of be that guy who plays a little up in the box, things like that. Same thing with this new safety, Dane Belton, that we signed, where I think Minkah can be the guy who is the coverage-free safety on the back end where he doesn't have to play as close to the line of scrimmage. So I think there's more opportunities for him to get interceptions. Also, I think he's playing with a much better defense around him now with actual players that can set him up for success instead of if we brought Minkah Fitzpatrick in and we still had Tony Adams, Michael Clemens. You had our linebackers playing all over the place. We didn't have the proper edge rushers, all that kind of stuff. Couldn't stop the run, all of that. So I think he would be in a better position with the Jets now than he would have been if he was here in 2025. So I feel really good about Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think it's a really good deal. I can't believe it was only a seventh. It's the Dolphins are really just looking to get rid of all the money that they have because of this Tua deal, where I think it was like $99 million in dead cap, which is a record. So I'm really happy with Minkah Fitzpatrick. I can't complain, and I think it gives us flexibility. I think going into free agency, at 10 a.m. I got this notification, I'm like, great, we have our safety now. We can get another one because we can have some competition for Malachi. Maybe we can run 3 safety looks, all that kind of stuff. And you don't have to draft one in the first 2 picks or the first 3 picks. You can if you want to, but now you're not forced to, which I think is great. So the more flexibility, the better. So that was the first thing that happened. I think that was probably the best move of the day, is getting Minkah Fitzpatrick to lock down the back half of our secondary. So very excited about that. Oh, and plus our new defensive coordinator, Brian Duker, just coached him last year. He was the secondaries coach for the Miami Dolphins and is now our defensive coordinator. So a lot of familiarity there. I don't think he would have traded for him if he didn't like working with Minkah Fitzpatrick. So welcome to the Jets, Minkah Fitzpatrick. So that was the first move of the day. Then let's go into, what was the second move of the day? I believe the second move of the day was Joseph Asai. So the Jets signed defensive end Joseph Asai from the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Joseph Asai is more of probably an edge rusher. He had a good amount of sacks last year, and I think he's actually had more than Jermaine Johnson has, and is a few years younger, which is great to see. And he should be a defensive end in our new 3-4 front. So he had, I think the deal was 3 years, $35 million with $22 million guaranteed. It sounds like it's just a 2-year deal essentially for him. He's young, so I feel like he's a guy who can actually come in and help right away. And if he plays well, we can extend him for the long term. And it's going to be good to have him rotate when Will McDonald can't be on the field. Joseph Asai is bigger than Will McDonald, so therefore he can be on the field for first and second down, stop the run, set the edge, rush the passer if necessary. Well, Will McDonald comes in on third down, actual passing situations. So Joseph Asai was actually a guy I was like, I don't think the Jets are going to be able to get him when I saw his name on the list of free agents. But this is a pretty reasonable deal for him. And once again, only a 2-year deal, so you're not like throwing all of your assets for the future into this guy just in case he doesn't work out. I also think he's on the upward swing. He had his most sacks, pressures, all of that stuff, and pass rush win rate last year. So it seems like a guy who's starting to put it together. And hopefully, with Carl Dunbar as a defensive line coach, can get the most out of Joseph Asai, and he'll be great in a rotation with him, Will McDonald, and then whoever our number 2 overall pick in the draft is going to be. Arvell Reese, David Bailey, whoever. So excited about Joseph Asai. That one was one that surprised me, but I thought it made a lot of sense and was a good signing. I thought that was going to be the Al-Qadim Muhammad signing, but they went with a guy much younger, which I'm a fan of. So love the Asai signing. Then you go into the next defensive end that we signed. Now this guy's a little bit different from Joseph Asai. This is Kingsley Engbare. I think you say his last name. He's actually been, I don't know, I've told you guys about this before, but I'm in a 32-person fantasy football league where you draft literally offensive players and defensive players, and it's a dynasty league. So I've actually had Kingsley on my team for the past 4 years, I think it is. So he was a defensive end with the Green Bay Packers. He's only 25 years old. We signed him for a 1-year deal, $10 million. I don't know what the guarantees are yet. So it's probably, maybe $8 or $7 million with some upside depending on how he plays. That's just my guess. Is probably your Michael Clemens, I think is what most people are saying. He'll be the guy who's rotating in, is a guy who's more going to stop the run. He doesn't really give you a lot in the pass rush game, so I wouldn't expect that out of Kingsley, but I think this locks us in on actually stopping the run this year and not being one of those teams that is just going to get trampled in the run game all over the place. And we'll talk about more people who actually helped with that. He only has 11 and a half sacks. His pass rush win rate was pretty low. So I think you just bet on upside and you bet that he's going to help stop the run. So while this isn't my favorite signing that we had for the day, I think it's one that's going to be good depth for the team, especially with, taking a Michael Clemens. But I'd much rather have Kingsley than Michael Clemens, for example. So that was two good signings to start off right away. Then the big one comes into play. Third signing of the day. It is equivalent to the amount of stints he's had with the New York Jets. Demario Davis, 37-year-old linebacker, comes back to the New York Jets for his third time. Insane. I don't think there's ever been a Jet who has played for us 3 separate times. I'm really trying hard to think about this, and I haven't been able to come up with one yet. There's plenty of people who have come back twice, but I can't think of anyone who's come back 3 times. But for him, downside, yes, of course. He's 37 years old. There's probably not a lot left in the tank, but if you look at how he played last year, he was a really good linebacker still. And I think the big piece for him, and this is the same with Minkah Fitzpatrick, is they are leaders that know how to play football. They're super smart. They've played with these coaches before. He's one of Aaron Glenn's favorite people. If you look back on the game we played against the Saints last year, look at what Aaron Glenn said about Demario Davis. He absolutely loves him as a leader. And then for me, it's not expensive. It was $22 million for 2 years, $15 million guaranteed. For me, to get like a leader like that who's going to like finally get our linebacking core in place, I think that's a really good contract. So the big question is he going to fall off or is he going to continue to play at the level he's played at? I think he's going to be great against the run. So we talked about this, being able to stop the run in 2026 because we were the worst team at it in 2025. He's going to be great there. The other big question is, what's he going to do in pass coverage? I think that's the place where he's probably going to get beat. It's like, remember CJ Mosley when he was at the end of his career with us? You could tell he had that one game against the Browns where like David Njoku had like 10 catches on us, and it was all because he was covering him the whole time. Well, that's the worry I have with Demario Davis, but I think he's going to be a guy who can be the guy who calls the plays. Jamian Sherwood doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Sherwood can just be a rocket launcher and, just play the run fast and not have to think as much. And Demario Davis can keep us in line and like get this defense together. Now we're starting to put the pieces together. If we have real football players who know how to play football, communicating with each other, where we don't have all these lapses while we still have our young players get better and better. So I'm really excited about having him. The other option we talked a lot about was Alex Anzalone, who goes to the Bucs. I think for him, he's not as good as Demario Davis, even though he's like 6 years younger. And he still would have been probably just as expensive, maybe a little bit less. So, I don't know. I think I'm happy with Demario Davis. I just really didn't expect him to come back. I thought he would stay in New Orleans. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out, but excited about Demario. And then next signing we had, as you can see, there's a theme. We're trying to stop the run. We're trying to make this defense better. We go with David Onyemata, D tackle, most recently from the Atlanta Falcons. This is another guy who played with Aaron Glenn. He played with him, I believe, when they were on the Saints together. But Onyemata is a big run stuffer. He's a little bit older, so once again, it's the same thing, but it's a 1-year deal. It's only $9 million guaranteed. They were together for 5 years in New Orleans. That's what it was. He started all games. He had 1 sack, 62 tackles. He's going to be another run stuffer. So now you look at our defensive line room. You've got Tavondre Sweat, great run stuffer. You've got David Onyemata. You've got Harrison Phillips. You got Briggs, who could probably rush the passer a little bit more now, which is going to be really interesting. So you've got players on this D-line and Carl Dunbar coaching it. You feel really excited about the D tackles. And then on the ends, you got Will McDonald Kingsley, and you've got Joseph Asai, and then whoever this, second number 2 overall pick is going to be. So you're starting to feel really good about this D-line and being able to stop the run. So I'm pretty pumped about getting a guy like this. And once again, only a 1-year deal. You're not committing long-term. You get this guy in to solidify the front, and then hopefully you can draft some younger players to backfill them over time. So, again, not a bad signing, and it's not breaking the bank either way. So Tavondre Sweat, David Onyemata, Harrison Phillips, Jawan Briggs, you just got some good players in there. And then finally, Another player on defense gets signed by the New York Jets just recently. This just came out a couple hours ago. Dane Belton, safety from the New York Giants. So he is a guy. Now, this is a really cheap deal. I think this was 1 year, $4 million, I think it was, or 1 year, $6 million, or up to six. I think four is guaranteed. This is a really interesting one because you've got Minkah Fitzpatrick now on one side, and then you got Malachi Moore on the other. Can Dane Belton take the starting spot from Malachi Moore and have Malachi Moore be the third safety, or maybe Malachi Moore wins the job and Dane Belton's the third safety? I think there's a lot of movement you can have here with these players. So for me, he's only 25. I think the big thing with him, he is one of the most efficient tacklers in the NFL. There's 95% tackling efficiency, which is amazing. He had 100 tackles last year for the Giants. He played on special teams as well. He can sack the quarterback. He's had quarterback hits and hurries. He's terrific on special teams. This is the kind of guy that is a big value signing for the New York Jets that you wouldn't expect. So he can start. He can be the third guy. It's a good chess piece to have. So now when you look at the safety room, you got Minkah Fitzpatrick, Malachi Moore, Dane Belton. That's a really strong safety room. Then you add maybe one guy in the draft, or maybe you sign a younger guy as well. That's four good players right there. And now you feel comfortable about the safety room moving forward. So just like that, in one offseason, we completely changed the outlook of our safety room just in literally a matter of 4 or 5 hours. So amazing job here by Darren Muji to make these moves, to make this happen. And I'm excited that all these guys are sure tacklers. All these guys know how to play football. We're not rolling out no-name players I've never heard of before. So the defense should be totally different. Now, the theme here that you'll see, obviously, complete overhaul on defense. Defense was clearly the vibe here. And of course, with the number 2 pick, we could draft a defensive player. We're thinking a defensive end, Reese or Bailey. And then you can open up the entire rest of the draft to offensive players. So I think this gives us so much more flexibility than we thought we would have. So I'm really excited about what we did today. And I think there's more moves to come. Now, I do want to address a couple of the people that left the Jets. The big one that I think people are going to be the most upset about is Nick Folk. Nick Folk, unfortunately, signs a 2-year deal with the Atlanta Falcons. He's 41 years old, signs a 2-year deal. Now, he was awesome for us last year. Once again, he's getting older. I could see the fact that potentially he didn't want to play in the cold. Potentially he doesn't want to play for the New York Jets anymore. He was probably just trying to get back into the NFL last year, and we gave him that shot. So it seems like the Jets kind of knew that he was on his way out a few weeks ago. But, it's sad to see him leave because now we're once again in this spiral of kicker being a problem for us. And we got to find one. And we got to find one fast. So losing Nick Folk is tough. But who knows? Maybe he'll be one of those guys that comes back for a third stint and I can finally have another person put with Demario Davis. So sad to see Nick Folk go. A couple other players who we saw go. Quincy Williams goes to the Cleveland Browns. He goes to play with our old linebacker coach in Cleveland. So we kind of all knew Quincy was on the way out, but still sad to see him go. Both Williams brothers officially off the New York Jets. That era has ended, and he is gone. I think the other two players that we can call out as definitely or most likely not going to be back on this team is Tony Adams. Obviously, with the safety room being completely overhauled, I don't see him coming back. And then number 2 was Michael Clemens. Obviously, with all the new D-end folks that we've brought in, he's probably not coming back. And I think that's going to be a sigh of relief for Jets fans that both those guys are not back in the building. I'm trying to think if there are any other Jets players that also left. Was there anyone else who got signed anywhere? I don't think so off the top of my head. Some really interesting ones were the Titans. Let's talk about what the Titans did this offseason. So obviously the head coach is Robert Saleh, former head coach of the New York Jets. And then you've got Brian Daboll, the former head coach of the New York Giants. They go ahead and just sign everyone that has played for them before. Mitch Trubisky, backup quarterback for the Bills while Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator. Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver while Daboll was the coach of the Giants. John Franklin Myers, defensive end while on the New York Jets under Robert Saleh. Cordell Flott, cornerback while Brian Daboll was the head coach of the New York Giants. Daniel Bellinger, tight end, while Brian Daboll was the head coach of the New York Giants. Jermaine Johnson, defensive end, while Robert Saleh was the head coach of the New York Jets. Literally, they're just saying, you know what's the best way for us to build this roster? What if we combined the 2022 Jets and the 2022 Giants and see if we can make a Super Bowl caliber team? So I don't really understand that. I can't wait to play them. I want to beat them so badly. So that was kind of wild. Even though I like some of the moves, like I like Alontae Taylor, who we didn't talk about. I think Wandell Robinson got paid too much. Same thing with John Franklin Myers, but I love JFM. He's one of my favorite players we've had on the Jets. So very interesting stuff for the for the Tennessee Titans. Let's quickly run through some of the other things that have happened in the NFL today, because there's a lot of news that has happened. So let me refresh here our free agency tracker that I'm following. And once again, I've been just refreshing Twitter all day, in between meetings, things like that, just because there's so much happening at any given time. I got all the notifications on and everything. All right, the big one, probably the number one free agent out there, was Tyler Linderbaum. Insane contract with the Las Vegas Raiders. I understand why they signed him, because you want a good offensive line, a good center for your rookie quarterback when you bring in Fernando Mendoza. 3 years, $81 million is absolutely insane for a center. That is literally $8 million more than the highest paid center gets paid right now. So completely reset the market. That was absolutely crazy. Alec Pierce goes back to the Colts, and with that, they trade Michael Pittman to the Steelers, which was interesting. Jalen Phillips to the Panthers. Odafe Owe to the Commanders. We talked about JFM. Let's see who else. Boye Mafe goes to the Bengals. Devin Lloyd to the Panthers. We talked about Alontae Taylor. Kenneth Walker goes to the Chiefs. So the Super Bowl MVP leaves his team. Brian Cook goes to the Bengals as the Bengals try to reshape that entire defense. Isaiah Likely goes to the Giants, follows Jim Harbaugh. Nope, John Harbaugh. Why did I say Jim? John Harbaugh. Jamel Dean goes to the Steelers. Travis Etienne leaves Trevor Lawrence and goes to the Saints. A lot of questions about what's going to happen. And then we've got Nakobe Dean to the Raiders. What other big? Oh, Mike Evans goes to the 49ers. That was a big one. Kwity Paye to the Raiders. Any other really big ones we want to talk about? Kenneth Gainwell goes to the Bucks, which is really interesting. Sheldon Rankins, who was a guy I was targeting with the Jets, stays with the Texans. Quay Walker to the Raiders. The Raiders made a bunch of moves too. Travis Kelce comes back again. He goes back to the Chiefs, which is no surprise. It was just depending on would he retire. Rico Dowdle goes to the Steelers. And I think that's all the ones that I really want to call out at this point. Oh, and then two big trades. Obviously, we had Trent McDuffie going to the Rams. That was a big trade for the Chiefs and the Rams. And then what was the other one that we had? Oh, Max Crosby going to the Ravens from the Raiders. Another huge trade. So, all right. So the big question now is, where do we go from here? What are some of the positions that we should look out for over the next few days as all of this continues? So for me, I think it starts with left guard. Right now you're looking at this team, and John Simpson, I totally forgot about John Simpson. He goes to the Ravens, and that leaves a hole at left guard, and we don't know what's happening with AVT. It sounds like there's a report that AVT doesn't want to play for the Jets anymore, which I think is really interesting, because we never really got that sense while he was here. It seemed like we made him a captain. It seems like him and Aaron Glenn got along really well. Maybe he just thinks there's something funky going on with the Jets, and that's why he's getting all these injuries. I don't know. Yeah, we got to solve this left guard problem, because I don't think it's a good idea to go into the draft needing desperately a left guard. We got to find someone to fill that role now, and hopefully it is AVT, but we'll see when the time comes. So I think that's number one. Number two, you look at wide receiver 2. It doesn't seem like we're in this free agency wide receiver market right now. And once again, I want the flexibility in the draft. So I'm looking at Brian Thomas Jr. I've been saying it from the beginning of this offseason. I really feel like he's going to be someone who's available, and it sounds like he is. It's just, what is the price, and who are the other teams that are actually going after him? Because, maybe someone has a third-round pick to offer that we don't have. Maybe a second-round pick is too much, and the Jets don't value Brian Thomas Jr., which I would. I think he'd be better than anyone you get in the second round at the wide receiver position at this point. So I would love for that to happen. It sounds like there's some stuff going on there, and maybe that breaks over the next few days, but hopefully it's for the Jets and not for some other team. So I think that's a big one. You can look at depth corner, because do you really want AZ Thomas and Brandon Stevens to be your 2 starters? I don't know. Maybe you have someone who can compete there. Is there another linebacker you want to look out for? Is Jamian Sherwood going to get traded? Thinking about some of the other positions, is maybe they're like another tight end you want to bring into the fold with Mason Taylor, Jeremy Ruckert, and then someone else besides just Jelani Woods, who couldn't even see the field last year. So I think there's maybe some depth options on the line as well. So I think there's more moves to be made here. Obviously, we need a kicker now. So definitely more moves to be made here. Does Keeney and Nwanwu come back? And then we signed Andrew Beck. Andrew Beck is back in the fold too, so we have a fullback. So I think there's some more stuff to happen here. But the biggest thing out of all of them is quarterback. Right now, we have no quarterback on the roster. The big moves that happened today was Tua gets cut, goes to the Atlanta Falcons. It sounds like Kyler is still up in the air. We don't know where he's going. It looks like Jacoby Brissett is going to stay in Arizona and be the starting quarterback there. I think they just signed Gardner Minshew as well to back him up, which is interesting. 2 veterans going at it there. Andy Dalton, I think, is someone who's on the trade block or is probably going to be cut in Carolina. He's an option. Mariota stays at the Commanders, so he's not going anywhere. So the big questions are, is it Kyler Murray? It sounds like he might go to Minnesota, which then leaves like one glaring option, which is Geno Smith, who has nowhere else to go. And man, that's a really tough one for me. I was never the biggest Geno fan. I was not happy when we drafted him. I can't believe that we had a quarterback that got punched in the face by his own teammate and broke his jaw. And that was the best season we had since, in the last 15 years, was the one where Geno didn't play, because we had Ryan Fitzpatrick, who led us to a 10-win season and unfortunately just missed the playoffs. So I'm not the biggest Geno Smith guy. I've warmed up to him over the years as he's played for other teams, but he's never been the guy that I've been like gung-ho to bring back. So I don't know. That's a tough one for me to root for. But I do recognize that between him, Kyler, they're probably the only 2 realistic shots that are out there besides Kirk Cousins, who I don't think wants to come here anyway. And then the other thing that I've heard out there is that Carson Wentz is one that's being talked about. I mean, if you want to bring him in and he's your 3rd or 2nd guy, sure. But man, you cannot sell me on Carson Wentz being the starting quarterback for the New York Jets next year. So that's a really tough one for me to soak in. So that's where I'm at. Like, if we have one of those guys as our quarterback, we need as many weapons as possible, which is why I'm all in on Brian Thomas Jr. or some other receiver that we could trade for. But I'm not very excited about the outlook at quarterback, and it sounds like it's going to force us into a hole where we're going to have to draft Ty Simpson or one of these other rookie quarterbacks where we don't want to actually take them. So that's the big stuff that's coming down. So we'll see how this all breaks down over the next couple of days. If there's really big news that breaks over the next few days as well, I will jump on this podcast again, and there probably will be, so I'll be ready to chat. Otherwise, I'll be doing short form stuff across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I think those are the 3 main spots for the short form stuff. So let me know if there's anything else you want to hear about, any other opinions you want to hear. But overall, I'm very excited about today. I think Darren Muji has done an excellent job with the trades he's made over the past. Think about some of these trades. He's traded away Jermaine Johnson, Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, Michael Carter. And he's gotten in return Jawan Briggs, Harrison Phillips, Mozzie Smith, Jarvis Brownlee, Tavondre Sweat, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Am I missing anybody? A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie. And then how many first-round picks? 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick with all these trades. Unbelievable. How is that humanly possible? I mean, it's wild. I mean, I hope it all converts to wins for Muji, because the way he manipulates this trade market is really impressive to watch. And I'm just excited to see it continue to happen. So props to Darren Muji, but we'll see how he does the rest of this free agency period. And how he does for the rest of the offseason with the draft and all that stuff. So I will be back on over the next few days. Don't you worry. We'll definitely chat again. But thank you all for listening. I think the Jets got better today. So I hope everyone's happy, and let me know how you feel about the team. So once again, like, rate, subscribe, review, follow, all the good things that can help me out all across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, JuicyJet25. And I will talk to you all later. Go Jets, baby.